What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Nerdwide podcast and all of our technical flaws we're dealing with today, mainly on my end. Discord doesn't want to work. OBS, Stream Deck don't want to talk to each other. I mean, what else could happen? Actually, I'm not going to say that because something could happen. I mean, I've been coming in choppy to Chris, but on my screen, everything's good. We're clear. We're great here. So we're not going to jinx it. But welcome to the Nerdwide Podcast, episode 151. The original Pokemon, Chris. 151 Pokemon. I'm your host,
there you go.
Tyler Haynes, with my good friend and co-host, Chris Rivers.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, and I am looking forward to the discussions today.
Listen, the movie alone could be like a 3-hour podcast. Just some things to talk about there.
I'm kind of glad I got to watch it when I did, though, because there was so much stuff around one particular aspect of this movie that I think people missed the overall point.
Oh,
but
I'm curious when we get there. Because I might have missed it. Because, it's it was a movie.
Yeah.
But our TV show, very pissed off. I texted you yesterday. Listen, I'll even bring up the text message from yesterday morning. Watched the last episode. I guess I finished it at 8:06 a.m. All caps. Are you shitting me? Agent Carter ends on that much of a cliffhanger. Question mark, exclamation mark, question mark, money sign, parentheses, exclamation mark, question mark. As you can tell, I was typing too fast, and I pressed the wrong buttons there. So
yeah, I didn't know what the money sign was.
Yeah,
for.
that was I have fat fingers on typing real fast. So, all right, I want to get into it, but first, before we do, don't forget to subscribe to our other YouTube or podcasting service of your choice. If you enjoy the show, make sure you leave us a thumbs up on YouTube. Make sure you guys good grading on whatever podcasting service you do use. If you don't enjoy what you see or hear, let us know down in the comments below. Can't fix anything, don't know what's broken, so that's where the place you can do that at. Okay, patreon.com/nerdwide if you want to do more. 3 different tiers for 3 different monthly subscription values there. If you want to recommend things, you want the episodes early, this is all where you go into there for that. Chris, how's your week been?
Been okay. Work-wise, I was told this next week will be on overtime. So.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
What's overtime at the beginning of May? Why not?
Right.
Especially here. Let me ask you, how are your sinuses doing?
Pretty well, actually. I'm surprised.
The whole household, but me. I don't know what it is. It's my wife's genes. But everybody stopped up, sneezing, running nose, all of it. The whole house. And I'm just like, hell, y'all stay over there because I'm not. It's all sinus related though because it's all the symptoms and it's just that time of the year.
Even the dogs, huh?
Oh yeah, he's got a runny nose, and you could tell. Like this is the first time Fury's been on the podcast in, a while. So.
Yeah, see, to me, he's just like a blob back there. I can't really.
For video watchers, you can see him looking at me, pointing at him. And he's just looking around like, why? But so, TV-wise, I've watched anything fun, anything interesting, anything out of the ordinary?
No.
He's not going to this week either, huh?
Maybe. I don't know. Since, we were talking before the show, you're not going to be able to record next week. So I may check out a streaming show or two that I haven't gotten around to. Might be... I really want to wait and see if we do Masters of the Air, but if not, I'm going to go ahead and watch it.
Yes, let's talk. We'll talk about that one. Cause that's the one service we need to re-up. Because we watch things on there, and MLS Soccer is on Apple TV. So,
there you go.
See, we started The Circle. We're caught up on it. They only do the first week they did 4 episodes, and then the weeks after they led to 2, I think. So we're caught up on it. But that's the only. Jamie's watching Reacher now. I've got her 100% addicted. And I think she's actually in the other room watching now. She's got maybe 2 episodes left of the second season. I'm like, okay, so I don't know if she's watching it for the plot or for who the main character is, but I'm just gonna. I don't want to know. I'm okay. Don't want to know. All right, but something I do want to talk about is something called Agent Carter. This is our last 2 episodes of it, and we're going to episode 9 on DiscKingdom.com by Paul Washington. Could not find Paul Washington's finale recap, so we're going to comicbook.com for it. But anyways, we find Peggy in the SSR office, but something is strange, and it's in black and white. Peggy also notices that this and calls out to see if anyone else is around. I'm glad she did, because I was at the front. I was like, oh, please don't be one of these kind of episodes. I'm not, like, there's certain tropes I don't like. And the whole black and white, old-timey-wimey kind of stuff, I'm not a big fan of. And when she calls it out, she's like, oh, please tell me we're not doing this. And I was like, oh, God, she gets me. That's why Agent Carter's my favorite.
That would have been weird anyway, because this is already old-timey.
We're already, 30, 40 years in the past at this point?
I think the only time we've seen them do that is if it's newsreel footage. Because that would have been in black and white.
Right. She finds her brother Michael, who is waiting for her in the chief's office. She accuses Michael of getting himself killed so she would do what he was doing. He says she is just doing what she wants to do. The light from the sign at the automat shines in, and Peggy is there and now returned to color. Angie is serving. She asks Peggy what she wants, but she doesn't know. Wilkes is sitting next to her, and he starts dancing, and then they are joined by Sousa, who also begins to sing. As the song ends, he tries to kiss Peggy, but Angie pulls her away and off on to another dance. Dottie joins in and tells Peggy she will always be in her head as they sing about Peggy making her mind up. Do not get me started on Dottie. Okay. Again, this is the last we see of her. Where's Dottie? All right. Jarvis joins in, accompanied by Anna, Dottie, and Whitney. Rose arrives and pushes Peggy, who wakes up tied up in the back of the truck with Jarvis. The rest of the team are still waiting in the desert, but after an hour they realize no one is coming back. Knowing that they have no supplies or transport, they have no way of surviving until an SSR car arrives. But Sousa recognizes one of the men who beat him up in the prior episode. As Peggy releases Jarvis, he tries to explain why he did what he did, but Peggy doesn't want to know. As the car pulls up, Sousa is holding Thompson to gunpoint, but Thompson tells the men to take Sousa and Samberly in. Vega has to be talked down from shooting Thompson. Peggy and Jarvis is trying to escape from the van, but the door is padlocked, but she uses a hot wire to burn through it. She throws Jarvis from the truck and follows him out. Frost is continuing to work on Wilkes, but Manfredi warns that his body could give up. Thompson arrives and flirts with Frost, but Manfredi warns him off, but Frost tells him to leave. Frost helps him to leave it, and Manfredi leaves the scene. Thompson tells her the whole plan and offers to be an ally to get a place on the council. Thompson then informs Peggy that Frost believed him, but Peggy doesn't trust him. Samberly hands over the gaming core, showing Thompson and Masters how to work the cannon. They leave just as Sousa and Peggy are about to follow. They discover that the fuel line to their vehicle has been cut. They think it is Masters who has done this. Peggy tells Samberly that they need his car, but he tells them Thompson ordered him to turn the cannon into a bomb. They order Samberly to build a jammer to disrupt the signal. Jarvis goes to visit Anne at the hospital, where she asks him about Peggy and Wilkes, and he doesn't want to tell her, but in the end confesses that she can't have children. She tells him to go help Peggy, that she needs him, and she knows that something is still not right. The team arrive at the facility, but the jammer still isn't working, and Carter heads off to save Wilkes anyways by herself. Masters gets the cannon into position while Peggy finds Wilkes. His skin starts undulating. He insists that pulling the gun on Peggy was all him and not the Zero matter. Thompson pulls the gun on Masters as Peggy is trying to escape with Wilkes, but he locks himself into a chamber, and his body is consumed by Zero matter. Samberly finally gets the jammer working as Thompson leaves Masters with Frost and tries to detonate the bomb. He finds Samberly and tells him to turn the jammer off, that he is making the decision to kill everyone in the building. Thompson pulls a gun on Samberly, but Peggy pulls a gun on Thompson. Frost is using Zero matter on Vernon, but he sees the bomb is ready just as it's about to go off. Wilkes walks in and explodes.
Louis.
The whole last little bit of this episode was running. And it was very fun and very well done. Mm-hmm. I feel like finally Vernon gets what he deserved. and rightfully so.
Yeah.
I still want to think that this council is a sect of Hydra, or I imagine they have to be, right? There's too much secrecy for this, if you ask me. So, kind of cool though. We never do find out what we don't find out what the key was for, do we? No, I don't think we do.
I think so.
God, it just pisses me off, Chris. All right. Let's go to the series finale. We're on comicbook.com by the wonderful Jamie Lovett. We flash back to 60 seconds ago when Thompson arms the bomb. Everyone outside is knocked over by the force of whatever happened to Wilkes. Peggy and her friends inspect the facility. They find Wilkes on the ground, weak and sore, but free of Zero Matter. Zero Matter starts crawling across the floor towards Whitney Frost, who then absorbs it herself. They leave the facility, but Saberly and the car are gone. Frost follows them out. Jarvis arrives and hits Frost with Howard Stark's car. Howard is in the back seat, and Saberly arrives with the other car. They all pile in and drive away as Frost gets up to her feet. I'm so glad he's back, though. Dominic.
Yeah.
I knew they wouldn't do a season finale without him in it. Sousa and Thompson begin rounding up Master's men in the SSR. Wilkes explains the powerful presence he saw in the crack, comparing it to a disease looking to affect the world. After an examination, Stark says Wilkes is now free of Zero Matter. Frost is working on plans for some kind of device and has plans spread across the bedroom and on the wall. Manfredi offers to get her some food, but Frost says she needs to finish. She's attempting to open a new doorway, one that will stay open. Manfredi touches her shoulder and Frost shoves his hand away and tells him not to touch her while she's working. She went full psycho at the end of this whole episode. I was like,
A little bit. A little bit.
Manfredi tells his Nana about his frustrations with Whitney. Manfredi says something else has a hold of her. His Nana tells him he has to make a deal with the devil if he loves Frost. Did you have subtitles on? Like, not subtitles. Were you able to see what she was saying?
Like,
Oh, okay. Just making sure it wasn't just, like, I thought it was something happening with my service. I was like, because I have no idea what she's saying. Because he was talking for her and doing that. I was like, that'd be kind of cool to have what she said. But they did it where he summed up pretty much what she was going through. So, yeah, sweet old Nana. Carter says Wilkes needs to help Stark build a new gaming cannon, and Stark suggests building a new containment unit to capture the Zero Matter, but Carter accuses him of trying to turn it a profit. Manfredi arrives and takes Jarvis as a hostage. Stark and Manfredi apparently know each other and embrace. Very funny scene. Like, I love this little dinner scene that they did together, or breakfast. Like, everything was very calm. Here comes Manfredi with a gun to Jarvis's head. And what do you call it? Joe, I think was his name was. And he said, Joe! And they start talking like they've been friends forever. The dumbest thing. Manfredi says he believes they're all worried about Whitney and explains that she hasn't been behaving like herself. He wants them to save her, saying it's the stuff inside her that's making her behave villainously. He tells them that Frost is trying to open another rift. Carter suggests beating her to it, opening a rift, and then ripping the Zero Matter from Whitney and sending it back through. Stark suggests taking Frost's research. Manfredi says she never leaves her room, and Carter says he'll have to give her a reason to. Manfredi finds Frost still working late into the night, and he asks her to help him with an interrogation. She agrees to help once she finishes the equation she's working on. Carter and Sousa are waiting just around the corner in the hallway. Manfredi grabs one of his men and puts on a show of interrogating him while Frost watches. Carter and Sousa take pictures of the work in Frost's room. Manfredi continues interrogating his goon, but Frost is eager to go back to her work. Manfredi asks her to use her power to intimidate him. Frost agrees and goes towards him, but the man quickly confesses to talking to the FBI, much to Manfredi's surprise, and Frost heads back to her room. Hilarious. Like, Manfredi was like, whoa, you're doing what? Like, he did his whole plot just to this fake interrogation, and turns out he was really talking to the feds. So,
yeah,
very well done. We see Carter and Sousa finishing up. They hear Frost coming back, and Sousa pencils in an incorrect number to the equation to slow her down before they leave through the window. Again, genius. I would have not thought about that. Like, he turned a 6 into an 8 and screwed the whole thing up. I was like, that's just awesome. Having identified the device's purpose, Saberly, Stark, and Wilkes argue over the naming rights to the device. They say it will work, but there are complications that could lead to the end of the entire planet. Carter encourages them to work together to figure it out on how to stop it. They brainstorm and decide to use the device with a Stark movie lot and draw Frost out. Carter names the device a rift generator. Stark flirts with Rose while Samberly watches jealously. They're all working on building the rift generator. Wilkes tries to apologize to Sousa, but Sousa says he doesn't need one. Sousa asks why Wilkes held the gun on Peggy, and Wilkes says he knew Sousa would fold because he would have done the same for her. Carter asks Jarvis about Anna, says that she's doing well, though there was some weeping over her injury. Thompson shows up and offers to help, and Carter tells him to gather the dinner orders. Very awesome callback to season 1. And I thought this was very well earned and very well put together. And Thompson says, you know what? I sure will. I was like, oh, I love it. Thompson calls in the food order. He finds Master's briefcase with the file on Carter. He also finds a Council of 9 lapel pin, which he twists and reveals a key, which we do not get an answer for. A lot of things here. A lot of things.
Unless it came out in as a small detail in a film or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and
and
it's
hadn't even seen
lost to my memory.
Yeah, because that's just frustrating, man. Oh,
yeah.
Let's see. They set up the rift generator at the Stark Pictures lot. Wilkes tells everyone to stay at least 20 feet away from the rift or they'll be caught up when it closes. Stark turns the device on and a rift opens. Frost senses the rift opening. Stark hits some golf balls at the rift while they're just waiting for Frost. Saberly is setting up the X-ray projectors and Thompson asks Carter when she's going to turn him in for sliding with Masters. But Carter says she's not going to do that. She says he's honestly a good man and he gives her the pin and shows her the key. Frost comes up behind Samberly and he screams. Frost comes into the view, just walking straight for the rift. Stark fires the gamma cannon at her, sending the Zero Matter back through the rift. Frost struggles as she is taken into custody. The only thing that I have to really kind of criticize this episode was that. That was very much she got hit by it, but that was it. So, and the Zero Matter went away, and I was like, all right, but I guess it kind of more so plays into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if I'm remembering correctly, the whole Zero Matter kind of stuff. But for this whole plot point, she's like been the big bad for the most, and she was just done. So
yeah, because in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they had the big obelisk.
Yes.
In the containment field, and turned out it was Zero Matter,
and like that transports them right to different places where and it's just I don't know. It's kind of. I really believe that they all were under the impression they were going. We were talking before we started recording that this was a different time in television shows where these shows were filming and did not know they were going to be back for another season. So they filmed like they were. And the fans are the ones that get screwed in the end. And here we are.
And that still happens sometimes. But I think networks are more... networks are better now about trying to let them know so they can wrap it up. And even if they don't, sometimes they'll get a finale movie or something picked up by a streaming service or something. And
which is how it should be, because there are so many shows out there that a lot of people just want closure to. And it wouldn't take... I don't think it would cost a lot of money. You canceled a show, I get it. But I don't think it would cost a lot of money for a 30-minute episode, an hour episode for your normal TV shows, of like a Q&A with the showrunners, some of the actors that could be there and stuff like that, and just be like, hey, yes, you got canceled. What were the plans going forward? So these people have closure.
Or, sometimes they'll have an idea. They'll have some script written. Maybe they could do like a table read of
even
a final
better.
Script.
Just do like a table read to wrap it all up and to answer these questions that need answered. I like that actually even better. It'd be kind of cool. Like even for like our superhero shows, you can do like a comic strip while they're talking and stuff like that. I don't feel like that'd cost a lot. I mean,
no.
But Stark is struggling with the radio relay for the device. There's a manual switch on the device, but whoever throws it will be within the 20-foot radius of the rift when it closes. They all volunteer, but we see Sousa is already taking action. He ties himself to a lamppost and reaches out to turn the lever. Sousa's line comes loose, and everyone grabs hold to keep him from flying into the rift. Okay. The pin wasn't the Frost situation wasn't my only thing. This was a little corny, this little bit, and I know they were working with what they could. But the whole time I could think about, you have these 4 adults acting like they're being sucked into something. and they're not. I just think of
Yeah.
how that would be if I was acting that out. It'd just be kind of awkward, and to me, some of it did come across that way. Um, let's see. Sousa tells him to let go. Jarvis and Saberly come around with Stark's hover car. They plan to detonate the gamma core in the rift using the hover car as a delivery device. They send it through and the rift closes, which we see this hover car again, by the way, in Iron Man 2 at the StarkCon. So cool. Oh, I love it. Over breakfast, Stark and Carter argue about the morality of studying zero matter. Stark has hired Wilkes on as a scientist at his new facility in Malibu to work on a project he came up with while in Peru. Do we know what this was? Like, was this like a reference to something? Because I couldn't think of it when I was sitting here watching it.
I couldn't either.
Yeah.
And
because I was like, Malibu is where Tony Stark lives.
right.
So, but the Peru thing, I was like, what happened in Peru? I was thinking maybe Bruce Banner, but I couldn't remember.
Was Peru sounds familiar with oh, was it Agents of Shield that had something going on there?
Oh, that what? I don't know. I could see that though. Them tying it closer together with them. Stark leaves.
Yeah.
Was it Agents of Shield?
Yeah, it was mentioned a lot in Agents of Shield. Apparently, I'm looking at the Marvel wiki.
Hit us with the wiki deets.
So it mentions Nazi asylum. So Hydra had a connection to Peru, which is where Agents of Shield would have. There was an Incan temple discovered in Lactapata, and the archaeologists started studying the artifacts. The leader of the expedition informed the authorities about the discovery. They dispatched a squad of soldiers from the military police under the command of Camilla Reyes in order to secure it. S.H.I.E.L.D. learned about the discovery and sent a team led by Phil Coulson to examine and retrieve the object. Coulson's team arrived at the area. It had presented a spike of violence due to rebel attacks, so Ward and Melinda May took necessary precautions to assure their safety.
This.
Yeah. So, yeah.
You remember Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had the Kree in it? What a time.
Yeah, I'm kind of scrolling just trying to see if... I'm wondering if this discovers the item that they found had craftsmanship similar to German items. Yeah, it's a whole story, and it's not just giving me the
the clear-cut answer. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
What else does it do? It's welcome to the internet.
Anyway.
Carter tells Wilkes that she's heading back to New York, and she says she's happy to have had the opportunity to know him. Jarvis brings Anna home, and Carter apologizes for what happened to her, but Anna just hugs her. Jarvis is offended when Carter tells him she's called for a taxi, so she agrees to let him drive her. That was a very good scene, too. Again, well, I said this before we started recording, but I went into this thinking that they were wrapping the show up this episode, and that it was done, but they didn't. It just stuff like that irks me. I don't know if it's the OCD in me or my ADHD or whatever it is, but I have to have closure on things. And that's why I was very like, okay, why? But so I was like, oh, okay, this is very funny. Jarvis is playing with her as it'll be the last time we see each other and kind of thing. But
it really was.
Yeah. So Frost looks at herself in the mirror and keeps saying that everything she worked for is gone. She sees Chadwick, who reassures her that everything's going to be okay. Frost is actually in an insane asylum looking out a window and talking to herself. She has marks on her face where she tried to claw her face open. Manfredi visits and brings flowers, but the orderly says he can't give them to her and she'd only use them on her face. Jarvis brings Carter to the airport, and Jarvis suggests Carter may want to stay in Los Angeles. She says her whole life is in New York. Jarvis suggests there's probably at least one compelling reason to stay. Sousa closes the case on Einstein. He tells Carter that her actions when opening the rift were reckless and ill-advised, and points that they were hypocritically giving her previous statement after he gave over the uranium rods. They bicker briefly until Carter kisses him. Thompson gets a call about Carter taking more vacation. He accepts that he'll be flying back to New York alone. There's a knock at the door, and he answers, and he is shot by whoever is outside. The shooter retrieves Carter's file as Thompson bleeds out onto the hotel floor.
Dun, dun, dun.
Come on.
And that's where they left him.
Yep.
Eternally bleeding out.
Yeah, it's just... and then, I don't want to know I was canceled. I want to see...
All of these actors are still around, right? So we could see Marvel do... They could do a one-shot like they did with Werewolf by Night.
And wrap it up. I feel like if we got that trending or something and it got into the eyes of Kevin Feige, I don't think it'd be that expensive either. You know what? Haley Atwell's still working with them. I mean...
Let me just call Kev up and
just Kev up and say, hey man, we had an idea and this would be great. I'm going to comicbookmovie.com. This is by V. Hernandez on what season 3 was going to be. Let's see. But while the possibility of a revival looks less and less likely, one of the show's producers and writers discussed what the story for season 3 is going to be. Quote, if memory serves, the initial thrust is going to come from the investigation to the assassination attempt on Jack Thompson, so he doesn't really die. Jose Molina told Den of Geek before explaining that the show would have introduced someone close to Peggy. Quote, we were hoping, assuming we could afford it, that the story would then lead us to London, where we would learn that Peggy's late brother Michael was not only alive and kicking, but involved in some nefarious, super villainous shenanigans.
So he would have been a member of Hydra.
Yes, that's what my thoughts were. So, which would have been very cool to do, to see oh, it's still up and kicking. Oh, he's a part of it. They could even mention Winter Soldier in it, like a little throwaway line to Winter Soldier. Would have been really cool, but what do I know? But that's it. I mean, no more Agent Carter. I have finally watched every episode, and I'm done. A very good series. I'm still really ticked off at myself that I didn't watch it when it was airing. Maybe I could have been the one metric number that they needed.
There you go. There you go.
So I'm not saying it's my fault. I'm saying it's also not my fault either. So
hashtag blame Tyler.
Right. Let's not get that trending. Notable new. I've got 3 things in news here. We've got some little bit of catch up to do. There's an official Hero sequel in the work. Going to Deadline.com. This is by Neela Andreeva. Tim Kring's Heroes is eyeing a second encore with Heroes Eclipsed, a new incarnation of the popular 2006 superhero drama series, sources tell Deadline. Appropriately, the project is being pitched to buyers now, the week of the solar eclipse, which this was last week when this broke. Which the original series started off with a solar eclipse in the pilot, which became a recurring element throughout the series, also reflected in its logo. Written by Kring, Heroes Eclipsed is set years after the events of the original series as new Evos are being awakened and discovering powers that will change their lives. Featuring familiar villains and new enemies who will once again be attempting to suppress this next step of human evolution. It'll be up to this new group of heroes to save the world. But of course, you have to save the cheerleader first. That's my little thing. Save the cheerleader, save the world.
I had that t-shirt.
God, isn't that awesome? I used to have the Silas necklace. The little S with the little notches in it. I used to have that. I still might, because I'm a hoarder. Invincible has been renewed for season 4 and season 5. So we'll be at least going into 2030 for season 5.
Yeah, something like that.
That was a good joke. I'm proud of myself for that one. And then the last thing I've got, Fallout has been renewed for a season 2, 1 week after it aired. So
the thing with Invincible, they'll get all the dialogue done by the end of this year for the next couple seasons.
It's easy,
but
I feel like.
But the animation will take till 2030.
Yeah. Which I'm not an animator. I get it. It's hard, but they did not do a good job that last one. Releases for the next 2 weeks. Friday, April 26th, The Knuckles series comes out on Paramount Plus, and I couldn't be more excited. Because did you see that Keanu Reeves is going to play Shadow?
I did.
It's going to be awesome. I just can't wait. Have you seen those movies?
I've not watched any of the
Oh,
Sonics.
God. Okay, so I'm just gonna add that to the list here actually, while I'm sitting there thinking about it. Cause let me see, movies to watch. Here we go. We've got some movies on here. That's pretty fun.
You got one more show to tell people about, right?
What, Fallout? Oh, Saturday, May 4th, Star Wars Tales of the Empire on Disney Plus. Genius. It's season 2 is what that is. So
Speaking of movies to talk about, we have one this week.
yes.
But first, did you watch anything else?
No, not this week. I don't know why I have to think about that so hard. So it's 6 days, you know. You can't remember what you did in 6 days. You gotta start worrying about something.
It's old age setting in, Tyler.
Yeah, you know, that's what they tell me. What about you? Anything?
All right. No. This was the first. I've fallen so far off my New Year's goal. This was the first movie I watched since American Fiction.
Oh, that was a long time ago. I feel like too.
Like
I've watched more movies with you
ago.
in the past several weeks than you've watched. Then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for this week's show, we watched a movie we didn't get to watch. There were only 2 we didn't get to watch in time for the awards. It was this one and
Oh, it was the one with the Nazi one.
yeah.
Oh, I cannot remember that.
And I'm drawing a blank on the title. I can't believe this. But we watched Poor Things for this week. And there was a
The
lot of
Zone
stuff
of
going on
Interest.
about this. Zone of Interest was the other one. A lot of things going on about Poor Things. I'm going to go through the plot here. I'm reading the plot as it is on Wikipedia. And then we'll get into talking about, we'll probably make some comments as we go. But then we'll have a discussion. There's a lot to discuss.
yes, there is.
It's just, I knew what the content was heading into this. I had no idea there was that much of it.
I did. All I knew was of
But
kind of like what we've talked about was she was a
grown woman.
A grown
with
woman in a child in a grown woman's body.
Right.
And so that was like my only preface to this.
Yeah.
And that Willem Dafoe looked like Frankenstein's monster. So
Yeah.
that's about all I had.
Yeah. And he references his father numerous times, which I think he was essentially supposed to be Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
You know, and he's referencing his doctor father who, but anyway.
Did just so many brutal things to him in the name of science. Oh.
Yeah. In Victorian London, the medical student Max McCandles becomes an assistant to the eccentric surgeon Godwin Baxter. Max falls in love with Godwin's ward, Bella, a childlike young woman. Godwin reveals Bella's body is that of a woman who was pregnant and killed herself by leaping off a bridge. Godwin then replaced the woman's brain with that of her fetus, giving her an infant's mind and named her Bella Baxter. We get that the film starts with the image of her on the bridge.
Yes.
And then she just slowly falls.
And we don't see if she's pregnant in this either. We just see her falling.
No. You know, we don't find out until you have a flashback to the surgery that he does. We also find out from Godwin that he said there were still electrical impulses. I could have saved her.
Yeah.
But he lets her die so he can do this experiment.
Oh God. This movie is like nine times of messed up in a lot of different senses.
His justification is that he doesn't know what kind of life she was running away from. So he didn't feel it was right to save her and send her back to that life.
Which is it was just still a conversation we're having today at healthcare.
Yeah.
Which.
Yeah. All right. With Godwin's encouragement, Max asks for Bella's hand in marriage. Bella accepts, but as her intelligence rapidly develops, she becomes curious about the outside world and herself. She soon discovers masturbation and sexual pleasure. She runs off with Duncan Wedderburn, played by Mark Ruffalo. Brilliantly played by Mark Ruffalo.
I've got a lot of things to say about this movie, but one thing is the acting, it was phenomenal. from
Yeah.
every top down. Everybody that appeared in this movie, phenomenal acting. Emma Stone, I don't know how she did it. She was
Yeah.
wonderful in it. And then Mark
Yeah.
Ruffalo, I feel like Emma Stone, then Mark Ruffalo, then maybe Rami Youssef for in order, the best acting here. Because God, it was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Well, and Willem Dafoe.
Yes, I mean he killed it too. I mean this was wonderful.
Duncan Wedderburn is a debauched lawyer whom Godwin has hired to overhaul the nuptial contract. Deciding to let her go, Godwin begins a new experiment with a young woman, Felicity, who matures more slowly than Bella. Bella and Duncan embark on a grand journey, beginning in Lisbon, where they have frequent intercourse. Bella is mistakenly addressed as Victoria Blessington by a fellow hotel guest. When Bella becomes difficult for him to control, Duncan smuggles her onto a cruise ship, and the way he just tells her to get in the trunk, and she does.
We're going on an adventure. You've been wanting to go on an adventure. We're gonna go on one.
And then when he
Smuggles her on a
opens
boat.
it, she's on the ship. Which I did think that they were going to. She didn't look pleased,
No.
right? And I thought they were about to go into her being triggered because of the water
Mm-hmm.
and the drowning, and the infant's memory of a drowning
Yeah.
or something. I thought they were going to go there. They didn't. Um, so let's see. Bella befriends two passengers who open her mind to philosophy. Duncan attempts to stunt her growth to no avail. He becomes exasperated and
That word gets me every time.
indulges in drinking and gambling. During a stop at Alexandria, Bella witnesses the suffering of the poor and becomes distraught. Wishing to help them, she entrusts Duncan's winnings to unscrupulous members of the crew who falsely promise to give it to them. Unable to afford the rest of the trip, Bella and Duncan are dropped off at Marseille and make their way to Paris. Seeking money and accommodation, Bella begins working at a brothel. Enraged, Duncan breaks down and Bella abandons him. At the brothel, she comes under the tutelage of Madame Swinney and begins a relationship with a prostitute, Toinette, who introduces her to socialism. Now terminally ill, Godwin asks Max to bring Bella to him. Max finds her after tracking down Duncan, who has been institutionalized. Back in London, Bella reconciles with Godwin and renews her plans to marry Max. The wedding's interrupted by Duncan and General Alfie Blessington. The latter, addressing Bella as Victoria, declares that they were married before her disappearance and he has come to reclaim her. Bella abandons Max to learn of her past life, but discovers Alfie's violent and sadistic nature and realizes Victoria committed suicide to escape him.
I mean, it had the maid come out with hot soup and then make the dog bark, and she jumps and pours the hot soup all over herself. I was like, dude, how much of a dick do you have to be?
and none of the servants there like him. You
No,
can tell. They
and wouldn't even talk to her.
Yeah, they don't like her, which no telling what she was like before. Alfie confines Bella to his mansion. He threatens her at gunpoint to submit to genital mutilation and a subsequent, we'll say, grape, because YouTube will flag it if we say it outright. Demanding she drink a sedative. She tosses the sedative in his face, and after a struggle, Alfie accidentally shoots himself in the foot before passing out. Godwin dies peacefully with Bella and Max at his side. Bella follows in Godwin's footsteps by becoming a surgeon with the help of Max and Toinette, and transplants a goat's brain into Alfie's head. And Alfie deserved it.
Yes.
So, a lot to talk about. The big controversy about this movie in the lead up to the Oscars was people were complaining because she has a child's brain and these men are wanting to have sex with her.
Right.
Not having seen it, I was like, okay, yeah, that's kind of odd. Like, why would you put that in the... But then seeing it early on, I think it's the first time Max reports to Godwin about her progress. He says she's learning 15 new words a day.
Mm-hmm.
So her brain is rapidly evolving to the point that by the time she actually starts to enter into these things, like by the time she's matured and discovered certain pleasures,
Mm-hmm.
her brain's already that of a mid-teens teenager.
Right.
And in England then, and I think now, you're considered an adult at 16. Like you can drink beer at 16,
Right.
you can do all this other stuff at 16. So she's probably right on that path, right on that. But the big thing that came out of this for me, when you really look at the story and you look at all the things that happen, this is a film about empowerment. She is the one in control the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
All these men are falling over themselves trying to be with her. And she's driving them absolutely, well, especially Duncan.
Yeah, she drove Duncan, man.
Absolutely. She drove him insane just doing what she wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And because it didn't fit into the norms of society, like when they're having dinner with the couple, I think they were on the boat at that point, and she gets a taste of some food she doesn't like, she just spits it back on the plate. And he's like, "What are you doing?"
This was before the boat.
Was it before the boat?
Because this was the couple that she was only allowed to say 3 sentences to.
Yeah.
And one was like about a kid's death or something like that. She's, "Oh, it's delightful."
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the tart is sweet," or something like that.
But she knew what she was doing when she said it. It wasn't lost on her that was inappropriate. Like she knew. I was told I could say these 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
God, she was talking about his wing wang the whole time, and
how it was salty.
Yeah.
And but it's just the way that she's truly her own person. And the society, especially at that time, was one where women were expected to be a certain way. I still think society thinks women should be a certain way.
Correct.
But especially back then, like you weren't even to show more than an ankle.
Mm-hmm.
That was scandalous.
And you did everything your husband told you to do.
Right.
And father before that.
She's just out there living her life. She's like, well, if something makes me feel good, if something makes me happy, why would I not do that? Why would I do that all the time? So I think what people saw, what they latched onto, was the most outlandish part of the story, but they lost the insight into what it's really about. And she's this, like, she's controlling the narrative. But Emma Stone's performance is fantastic.
Okay.
Because
I understand why she was up for all the nominations and things.
She won Best Actress at every award ceremony.
And rightfully so.
The walk is what got me.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we first see her, she's got that toddler walk, where they kind of just waddle. They don't really
know how to
bend
control
their legs.
bodies.
Yeah, they're kind of figuring it out. And that walk gradually, and I mean gradually, changes over the course of the film. Even after she's in Marseille, she's still got a little hitch in her walk, just slightly. It's not until she comes back to London and she's walking with Max that you notice she's walking normally, or what we would consider normally. But it's just the slow evolution of this walk. I don't know if she wore braces at any point to get a certain
to get that gait
walk,
down,
or if it was all her. But
it was really cool how they did some of the things in this film. Like her at the end, like with it being all about empowerment and stuff like that. At the end, where she goes, "This is where I'm happiest," when she was operating on her husband, and she goes, "This is what makes me happy." And that in the movie, she's getting ready for her surgeon license and stuff like that, and she's like essentially a normal person at that point.
Yeah.
I thought it was very cool. And see the husband on all fours eating grass like a goat. And the creatures, and some of the creatures in this were unsettling.
Oh yeah, you had the chicken with a pig's head.
Dude, there was like a pig, dog, and goat hybrid that was walking around. Was very, very weird. The chicken, or the sheep bawling at the dude as he's in bed after he gets chloroformed. It was very. I was like, it's no reaction whatsoever from the guy. I was like, oh, he's used to this. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the animals seemed happy.
Right. Couldn't tell any different.
I mean, they're perfectly content. I think too they were also making a little bit of a commentary here on nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
Because this infant brain that was put back into her is the product of two people that apparently like to mistreat people. They like to be cruel to people, but she's not that way.
Right.
She was raised in a very strict environment for those first few, what were probably only weeks. And then she's kind of out in the world and just kind of doing her own thing, making her own way, and she became different. So it wasn't a genetic predisposition to be this way to people. Now, she has that side, because when she wanted revenge on her husband, she got it.
Oh, beautiful.
But she has compassion.
Yeah.
Which Alfie certainly did not have.
Yeah, that was... what do you rate this one?
I gave it 4 out of 5.
Okay.
And the only reason that I went 4 out of 5, and I meant to change our photo, my background before now. The only reason that I gave it 4 out of 5 was...
that's unsettling. Just the one eyeball peering
out. The only reason that I gave it 4 out of 5, I would have liked to have seen, even though we get a hint of it, I would like to have seen a little bit of what she was like before she came to the conclusion that she needed to jump. You know?
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen what Victoria was like just for a little bit, and I would have liked to have seen a little bit more with her in that environment. Not additional runtime, because it's 2 hours and 22 minutes.
Yes.
That's plenty long. But maybe eliminate a little bit of the stuff on the boat. I think it's telling that even in that situation, there was no attempt by her to... She's essentially what in a horror film you would call the final girl, right? She has the strength to survive this situation, and she doesn't need help from anybody. You know, she walks right up to him and says, "Shoot me in the heart."
Right.
And before he can, she
because she didn't want to be trapped anymore. She said, "I'm not doing it."
Right. But he tells her that there's chloroform with gin, I think it was.
My favorite cocktail.
And she's like, "Oh, okay." So she just throws it in his face, and apparently there was enough chloroform in there that it made him woozy. And she uses that opportunity to force the gun straight down to the ground. He shoots himself in the foot. And she's got it, you know, from that point forward. So, now one thing I was going to ask you, he's shot in the foot, and they're worried about him bleeding out.
I wouldn't have. I mean, not at a quick pace either. Like, because you have your
there was a lot of blood.
Yeah,
though.
I mean your artery goes down like through your thigh, down your leg, but at that point it's not going to kill you. So I mean, it's Victorian London. So I mean,
toes and feet are probably similar to fingers and hands, right? You probably bleed a lot initially, and then it. So he probably did have a lot of alcohol in his system, which would have thinned his blood out.
Yeah. So I mean, there were a lot of the medical aspects that were kind of cool to watch, like Dr. Godwin.
Sit like this so that she's looking
just
over
staring at me. I liked some of the medical stuff in this. I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
It was I just couldn't get in with the story. Like I found myself not really caring that much. I thought it was a very cool story to go from put it essentially an infant's brain into an adult body and all of that. But it was what gave it up for me. Well, not what gave it up. What brought it up such to a 3 out of 5 was the acting. Like, and some of the cinematography was really cool. I'm still trying to figure out what they were trying to portray whenever they would go to like that keyhole kind of frame. Like they would be black and white for a little bit of it, and then when she left, it went into color. But even in the color, it would still go to like the keyhole. Like it would zoom into like a keyhole.
Yeah.
And then I'm still trying to because I don't know if it was like the Oppenheimer film where Robert Downey Jr.'s character was through black and white, and Oppenheimer's was in color. I didn't know what they were trying to do here, but there were some very cool scenes where they would fish eye it and sit in a corner, and then follow her go out through a building and walk through a building and people and everything. I thought it was awesome, very cool cinematography.
Yeah.
But I wasn't very interested or didn't really enjoy the story as much.
I kind of wondered if the keyhole was a way of saying that this is something that's happening here is the opening of a new door kind of thing. Like this is a major growth point for her,
right?
Possibly.
When she was going to town, she goes, "Oh, it's what she called my happiness or something like that. Makes me happy." She goes, "Oh, are you trying to make me happy?" I was like, It's a different way to explain that.
Yeah, and that's what it all seemed to come down to in this was the character is she just wants to do the things that make her happy.
Yep.
That's all she's looking for.
That's all anybody really needs to do.
Yeah.
So,
and unless you're demented and your happiness is harming other people.
Yeah. Which at the beginning
Alfie.
of this movie, that's what I was starting to think, because she went up to she goes, "Oh, can I play with this one?" When he was operating on somebody, he said, "Nope, oh, Bella, only on the dead ones." And she walked over and goes, "Squishy, squishy, 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 squishy." I was like, "Oh God, this is rough."
But that's what a kid would do.
Correct.
Growing up in an environment like that, it not
knowing that's not normal or frowned upon or anything. So,
right, yeah, but yeah, I really like the movie. I think, it's one I would definitely rewatch. Just and to go back and like I said, maybe those keyhole moments aren't that, but to watch it again, looking for little details like that.
Seeing things you missed, and because there was a lot of the artwork was like there's a lot of things you clearly tell were green screen, and they filmed it that way, and it was cool to see them do it. Like the rooftop scene for one, was very much a green screen. When her and the guy from the boat are having dinner when there's people dying and the babies are dying down low. Was very much a green screen and everything. And the boat, the whole boat scene, everything but the rooms and on the deck were all green screen. It was really cool to see them do it in a way that they're intentionally trying to make you see that it's green screen. So that's why you can pay attention to what's actually happening on the scene. It was kind of, that was well done how they did that. So,
yeah, definitely. So you gave it a 3, I gave it a 4. I don't remember what I picked for different categories leading into the Oscars. Would this have changed in any of your picks?
Maybe makeup.
Yeah.
And maybe cinematography, because I mean the cinematography was great, and it was a different style than Oppenheimer was, but it definitely was really good. Maybe acting. I think acting it would have changed some too. Because, I mean, again, Emma Stone, phenomenal. Like, every single thing she was... I think this was Emma Stone at the top of her craft, and I don't think there is... Like, if you want a movie that's like, hey, show me a movie that Emma Stone is 10 out of 10, no notes, just chef's kiss. I would say this because, like, I don't think there was a bad moment where she was bad acting. It was wonderful, and I'm only saying that because she's staring into my soul right now. So,
and the bravery too to take on a role like this.
yes,
Not just for the
there was a lot.
difficulty.
I mean, you saw everything of her.
Yeah.
Multiple different times of the movie. You know, sometimes you get these scenes where it was for actors, it's just one scene, 10, 15 seconds. I mean, there were minutes that she was naked and exposed the whole movie, like multiple scenes. And I mean, her and Mark Ruffalo, same thing. And I don't know, I'm not an actor, so I don't know how hard that is to do, but it has to be hard. And it's very vulnerable, and you have to love your craft and be dedicated to it to do scenes like that.
I've heard that when they do scenes like that, they only have the crew around that have to be there. They usually have a coach who's directing.
Right.
Like, okay, now do this, now do that. Now, so it's not as personal as it comes across on screen. But yeah, it's still got to be nerve-wracking.
I couldn't do it. I mean, I'm not a performer, so but I couldn't do it.
All right, so next week we're not doing a show, so we don't have a movie for next week.
We'll when we decide, we'll put up on our socials what we're doing and watching and stuff like that, so we can get that to you guys, so you all can watch along with us. So it's be watching one of our friends, BD, wrestle. So my first time watching him live, his second actual match wrestling. So wrestling. We're down here in the South. We say wrestling. So guys, thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode. We hope you really enjoyed it as much as we did. Let us know what you thought of Poor Things and of the finale of the series finale of Agent Carter. Do you wish we got more? Were you okay with how it ended? I mean, I don't see how you could be, but let us know down in the comments. But that was it. We're done with Invincible. We're done with Agent Carter. We're done with essentially our Oscars rewatch, unless Zone of Interest comes to streaming, which we will watch it then. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, come closer. Come closer. I will be getting Chris to watch Dune and Dune Part 2 very soon, because Dune Part 2 will be up for the Oscars. So it's going to change his life, I promise you. So we'll get there. But thank you so much for watching and listening. Don't forget to share it on your favorite social media platforms. Follow us on all the social media. We're on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, Facebook, all of them. We will update you on what we're watching and going to review for next time's episode. But again, thank you so much for watching, and we really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Nerdwide Podcast.
Later, guys.